Hello again. I thought I would just continue what I said in my last video as a kind of homage to Richard, who passed away on November 1st. And I wanted to speak a little bit more about his accomplishments that I left out in the last video. And so I just wanted to show you something on our ranch. You can't see it right now because it's dry. We haven't had any rains, but as soon as we get some really good rains, this lake is going to fill up like it always does after rains. And if you can see, I'm going to walk a little bit towards where the lake fills up during the winter, and if we get really good rains, it will stay almost all year round. But there was no lake there before when Richard bought this land. What happened is he was studying the map and seeing what was, the whole landscape of the land. And right below on the land that he bought right here on the ranch, and you probably can't tell because it's dry and you don't see any water right now. If you could, it's hard to tell because it all looks like land right now. But down below there, some people call it a pond, but it's much larger than a pond. I call it like a small lake, and a lot of reeds have grown in all around. Richard was, before he died, he was thinking about, I got to clear out a lot of those reeds because eventually that lake might end up disappearing with more growth of these reeds. And the lake provides a sanctuary for the wildlife. He spoke about how he wanted to pass this land on to conservation, environmental protection, because it is a wildlife sanctuary. And if you notice, all the other land beyond down Los Osos Valley Road here, I'm pointing in that direction and I'm going beyond that big juniper tree. If you notice that this is the only land that kept the forest in the background, that the land goes all the way to the end of that forest. And other people have just cut it down. The guy that owns the land up above there, he's growing a whole avocado ranch there, which, at first Richard said he was a little like concerned about that because he always wanted everything to stay the same. I said, hey, there's nothing wrong with it looking out to a whole bunch of avocado trees, because we both love avocados. We both have been vegans, vegetarians and vegans. Once in a while I'll have some cheese, I admit, and some dairy products, but we stopped eating animals, fish, chicken, a long time ago. We've been, vegetarians for like 40 years or something. And but what I'm getting at here is this was a wildlife sanctuary, and the lake provided a wonderful source for the wildlife, for deer, birds, all sorts of birds, all kinds of variety of birds. There are wild pigs that live down there, just coyotes. But what I wanted to tell you is that lake was not there when we first got this land. He saw that it was listed under Warden Lake. That's what it said. He said, "There's a lake here, and I'm going to bring it back." And sure enough, he got a hold of the right people to go down there and dig that whole part out following the contours of the original lake under Warden Lake, and he brought back the lake. And as I said, unfortunately, it's been very dry. We go through these droughts like this, but as soon as we get like some heavy downpour rains, it fills up, and it's just beautiful. And if you get like a lot of rain during the winter, that lake will hold up for a whole year. But it's been a dry year, so it's dry down there. But my point is, this is the kind of creative thinking that Richard had. No one else would have thought of doing something like that, except for Richard. and know how to do it, and know the right people to call to do it. And it's a beautiful sight to see when it's filled up. And it was especially important to him because he loved horses. And that lake provided, wonderful little lake for the horses to go into. They'd like to stand in the water, and I remember seeing them. They enjoyed it, the horses. And Richard loved horses. When he was a child, that's all he wanted, was to have a horse ranch. And we started out with about 5 horses originally. This is like back around 1983, 84, and we had like 5 horses. And they weren't neutered. There were some mares and stallions, and we had Appaloosas, we had quarter horses, we had Arabian horses, and they started having little babies, and they were so cute. They were really, really cute. And we kept saying, "Oh, look, they're cute! Another baby horse." And after a while, it was really good to have them here, because the grass would just take over, and it was just long grass, and it was great to have the horses here to eat it down, because in the summer they would turn into foxtails, and we had dogs, and we wanted the horses to eat down all those foxtails, because foxtails can be absolutely treacherous to dogs. So I'm just giving you an idea. The pretty fog is slipping through over the hills. I always love that when the sea fog comes in. I've written so many poems about the fog coming in over the hills here. This has always been an inspiration for me, looking out to this landscape for poetry. And but he came up with that creative idea of having a lake in here, and no one else probably would have even thought of it, let alone, even if they thought about it, they wouldn't know how to do it and make it where it just was, it didn't look man-made. He made it where he brought back what nature had originally under Warden's Lake. And another thing that, I'm just going to walk back up here. There's a beautiful bird flying away. Another thing too is he planted all these eucalyptus trees. There were some eucalyptus trees when we got here, but he planted, I know, not we, he did it. He planted all these beautiful eucalyptus trees on the ranch, and it gave it a certain beauty, and they're just lovely, and they smell so nice, the mint smell. And he planted them all around the house, and some of them were a little bit too close to the house, where we had to trim back. We had to cut back some of them because they got a little bit too close to the house. But it really enriched the land with the beauty of these trees. That's another thing he did. He planted a lot of eucalyptus trees here, and Then, and this is our bathtub, our outside bathtub. Uh, he did that too. I said, why don't we just get a hot tub? He said, well, this will work. You know, we'll put hot water in and it will stay. And sure enough, it does. I mean, it really works like a hot tub because the water, it's really hot if you don't add cold water to it. So it will stay nice and hot for a long time. But I mean, everywhere I look, there's something that I see that he did, that he accomplished. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about was when we had to come up with a way, an income, you know, to pay, because the taxes and everything, we had to come up with something that would, you know, help pay for everything. And so, you know, he started setting up cute little cottages for as rentals, and he never overcharged anybody. He always kept the rent really affordable for people and never raised the rent. I mean, most of the cottages, they're like $700 a month. And, you know, he just made it where it was enough to cover the expenses. He was never greedy. He never thought, I can get more, you know, compared to the competitive prices that are out there, you know, that nothing is out there now for, you know, if you find anything at $2,000, it's a junker. But we have, you know, these nice, cute little cottages that most of them are like around $700, $750. There are some that are a couple that are a little bit more than that because they're larger, or they may have been just remodeled, and so he might have charged a little bit more. But he never raised anybody's rent. Even people that have been here for a long time never raised their rent. Always fair about that. So he had to come up with an idea. But in the beginning, when he had to come up with an idea of setting up some rentals, he found there was a house they wanted to get rid of in Cambria. They were going to just knock it down, the whole thing. And he found out about that. So this is a really interesting story. I mean, like I said, no one would ever have thought of doing something like this. Whenever I think about it, it's like, how did you do it? You know, how did you even do it? But there was this house in Cambria, and he said, I think that I can find a way to cut that house in half and make 2 cottages out of it. And somehow he managed to get the house split in half and put it on a big flatbed truck and have both of them sent over to the ranch. And one part of the house is on the side that I'm on, and the other part of the house is on the other side. And then he just kind of expanded on them a little bit. He did some remodeling on them, and he had his friend Gene go through and, you know, add things that it needed. And I thought, gosh, who would ever be able to accomplish something like that? You know, just a house that was going to get demolished, and he managed to get it split in half, put it on trucks, and have it put on the land and turn them into nice homes for people. And he did the same thing in Maui. There was a little cute octagon in Maui, on our land in Maui. And I don't know what the deal was, but they were going to get rid of it. He actually found a helicopter guy that used to be in Vietnam and did helicopters. And he had the octagon cottage, lifted up by a helicopter, and then had it landed on the land in Maui. I mean, these are the things that he did that no one else could have done, to my to my knowledge, I don't know anybody that could have done something like that, you know? And that octagon is still there on the Maui land, and it's, you know, it needs a little repair work from time to time, but it is just gorgeous. It is a lovely little octagon with these big windows that looks out to the landscape and the, you know, the view of the ocean, and it's just cute as can be. And I've did some remodeling on it, and still holding up real nicely. And so there's a hawk flying around. So those are the things that I forgot to mention in the last video, like what I was trying to say about how he had not only this ability to see the potential of something. I look out, I see the land, I saw this map, Warden's Lake, it says there was a lake here. He saw the potential of it, and then he just went to work with his brain power, his mind, on how to accomplish making that into a lake again, how he brought those cottages over, how he brought that house over, splitting it in half and bringing both parts over on the land, and there are people, you know, living in those cute little cottages to this day, and they're really nice. They're all wood, you know. They have a really some beautiful aspects about it. It would have been a shame to just demolish them, because they had some really just gorgeous wood in those cottages. And you know, I remember the one thing that I did help Richard on. He was going to paint over on the inside of one of them, and I said, "Are you kidding? Don't paint over that wood. That wood is just gorgeous. All you need to do is just varnish it." So there were some things that I helped him on with ideas like that. I'm really glad, because I mean, if they had just painted it brown, and made it like a regular wall, that would have been awful. What made that place so beautiful was the original wood in it. So yeah. I'm always thinking, you know, I've been thinking of he had a legacy here, a beautiful legacy of what he accomplished, the things he did on this ranch, and he never stopped thinking of ideas. He always came up with more and more ideas of improving things, making things better, and he loved it here. This was his home. He just absolutely loved it here, and he could never imagine selling it. Never. And I don't know if his son Brett, if that's going through his mind, like, oh, and then let's see how much money this is worth. You know, I'll just sell it and go on with my life somewhere. You know, I don't know if the probate, whatever comes out of it, whatever he does on, you know, if it ends up splitting one parcel and the other. All I can say is he put a lot of work into getting the entire 85 acres, and it was complicated. That's another thing. When he was able to get this land, it was tied up with a lot of legal complex, with a lot of owners. There were a lot of people that were involved in owning it before him, and he had to untangle that mess, and he did it. And as I said, he did all of this at the age of 34. He bought the ranch, he got it set up with water, he built our home, our log cabin. He did it all at such a young age. And I just wanted to talk more about this kind of an homage to Richard, the extraordinary things that he accomplished. Okay, thank you for listening.